19 years old. I saw Francis Bacon show, and definitely first artist that I ever saw that made me realize that paintings don't have to look like everyday apples, oranges, flowers, that type of thing.
The painting process for me, I guess, has evolved over a period of maybe 15 years. The beginning process is an actual finished abstract paint. It provides the colors and the shapes and the things that you know that are going to show up later in the painting. The abstract piece then leads to a rough painting, like a figurative drawing in a landscape that involves really no structures. It's mostly based off of color. So you're setting up background colors and foreground colors in your second process. And then the third process figures out what point you want to have the detail. And then I focus in on that.
Contemporary artists, Vachigan Narazan is his name. He's a Russian artist. A lot of his work, if you looked it up online, has a huge influence on what I'm doing. Not so much the color. Colors come from Diebenkorn and Thibaud. But definitely Vachigan Narazan, he's a Russian artist. I learned from a woman. She taught at the Long Island Bridgeview School of Arts in Long Island City. I took like 3 months of classes with her, Anna Rashagova. She taught me constantly to fill in your backgrounds before you start, or change your colors from background to foreground. Don't use the same type of blue in the background that you would in the foreground, and to give you more depth. And that's really what I'm going for.
Painters, I think, are similar to musicians in that they both play or perform to a certain rhythm. The amount of pressure applied by the painter's instrument of choice, a brush or palette knife, can bring this to fruition with the amount of pressure you apply to the canvas. And I think that a good painter knows when to release the brush from the canvas and move on to the next note. But if the piece is drenched in narcissism, you miss the opportunity to explore other ideas. So it's about strengthening your intuition, and I try to work on that every day. In other words, making better decisions with my work that some people would say come out of nowhere, space, heaven, wherever you think it comes from. There are ideas that feed your imagination and potentially may not even be your own. But if you make yourself susceptible to these ideas and allow them to interact with your gut or instincts and combine them with whatever learned experiences you've had in your life, the result is a technique or style. So how does this interaction between the intuition and new ideas affect your paintings? Well, as an example, I spent about 5 years on the road. I had few, if any, pictures of the places that I lived or visited. I always wondered if these experiences I had and the images I've stored in the back of my mind, when met with the imagination, in fact were familiar images only, not clearly defined. We can even say blurred. Because they exist only in my mind, have they been evolving slowly or manifesting themselves as people and landscapes I want to use in a painting, which would be kind of interesting since they're undocumented. So my style could be a result of this undocumented library of images in some personally experienced contexts that are only really familiar and not being 100% sure where they come from. So I guess the interaction of my gut feeling or knowing how to press the brush, palette knife down on a canvas, and when to release that chord and move on to the next note, combined with making yourself fully susceptible to those ideas presented to you, sharpens your ability to get in and out of a painting with confidence. I think the byproduct of this is, obviously not fully knowing the outcome, but if you side with only what is comfortable, I think you lose the opportunity to grow in your art. And for me, this translates into how I want to live my life.
You can't get too wrapped up in the seriousness of stuff like that. I mean, it's art, man. It's got to be fun to look at.